Oh crap, my character's a werewolf! Hello everyone, Nathan here, and I've been checking out the open beta for the upcoming extreme sports game, Steep. So today I thought I'd share some of my opinions on what I've experienced in playing this game. So what is Steep? Well, it's a weird jumble of different things, as not only can you snowboard, ski, wingsuit and paraglide to your heart's content, it also takes place in an open world setting. Now if you grew up loving games like SSX Tricky like I did, I bet that sounds pretty cool to you as it did to me. But if the SSX experience is what you're after, you might be a little disappointed with Steep, as it takes itself a bit more seriously. Everything seems to be geared around realism, and tie-ins with GoPro and other companies like that just go to show how this game views itself. That particular tie-in comes mainly in the form of watching replays of runs down the mountain, but to be honest, the GoPro camera angles in those replays look pretty terrible, and actually resulted in making me feel a bit sick more than anything else, as the camera jerks about all over the place. There's also an odd total lack of expression on the character model's face as they're racing down a mountain at incredibly high speed, which makes everything look a little bit off. I mean, if I was getting the adrenaline rush that comes with whizzing towards danger and potential death, I doubt I'd be able to keep a straight face. That speed and sense of whizzing around though is one of the things that the game does well. It really can feel like you're hurtling downhill insanely fast, and the obstacles that you have to avoid seem sensibly placed with a decent amount of trees and cabins to complement the ramps and natural verges that give opportunities for jumps. Now, I said earlier that Steep takes itself a little more seriously than some of the older titles you might have played, and you might be thinking based on that you can't do tricks in the game, but you can. Getting height off a conveniently placed ramp and pulling off a beautiful backflip can feel great, and there are moments when it all comes together to look awesome. Unfortunately though, this trick system seems a bit limited to me. Now this could just be me, and maybe I need to get better at the game, but there doesn't seem to be all that much that you can do when you're in midair. And while that will satisfy some people looking for a more realistic experience, it left me feeling underwhelmed. The game's controls also feel somewhat sluggish, and I didn't always feel like the character was doing what I asked. One other thing I initially found puzzling is the need for this game to be open world, as when you're playing on your own, it seems like all you're doing is skipping from one event to the next, as that's where the interesting gameplay is. Travelling around the world itself isn't actually that engaging, as there are no random events or anything like that. If you do want to travel around though, you'll quickly find snowboarding and wingsuiting are the only methods that you'll use, as skiing just feels like a worse form of snowboarding, and the paragliding is slow and controls just terribly in my opinion. But I don't think that the open world is for single players or travelling around. Instead, I feel the open world is there almost entirely to facilitate the multiplayer elements of the game, as it gives you and your friends a sandbox to mess around in and create your own fun. And I genuinely think it'd be a decent amount of fun to have wingsuit races against your friends and see them wipe out on the cliff as you glide across the finish line in first place. The entire world also looks great, and although everything is covered in snow, every slope and run I've visited so far feel different from one another, which is quite an achievement here given the inherent similarities in a world entirely covered in snow. So despite my initial skepticism, I actually ended up feeling that the open world is quite a nice addition into Steep, and is pretty well implemented with extremely quick fast travel. Honestly though, none of the great graphics or open world design compensate for the worst issue that this game has, which is that it's just boring. After an hour or so, you'll have done everything that there is to do, and after that, it's just about attempting to get a slightly higher score on courses, and without a really fully developed trick system, that's not a great deal of fun. Now for some people that might be enough, and for others who've just been waiting for an extreme sports game, the mere fact that this exists will justify a purchase. But for me, there just isn't enough to do. Steep really needs more silly and entertaining sections like the old SSX games or the original Tony Hawk games, which let's face it are kind of similar in their concept. In real life extreme sports, the entertainment comes from the adrenaline rush of throwing yourself down a mountain and the thrill of doing something dangerous. That doesn't transfer over to games, and because of that I feel Steep needs more, because at the moment 90% of the gameplay is steering as you try to stay vaguely on track. Now, you might think I'm being a bit harsh on Steep, and you might be right, but let me just clarify that I don't think it's a bad game. But for £40 on PC and £55 on console, I just don't think there's enough here. Now this is only the beta, and maybe some of the more zany stuff is being held back for later, but somehow I suspect that's not the case, and what we see here is pretty representative of what we're going to get in the end. And personally, in its current state, I wouldn't be willing to pay more than maybe £20 for this one. Maybe your valuation will be a bit higher if you can get together a group of friends to enjoy this with, but if you're going in on your own, I'd say maybe wait and see what happens with this, because I just don't think it's worth it from a single player experience viewpoint. Anyway, that's about it for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd be very appreciative if you'd click that like button down below. It really helps me out. Enter the Gang Beasts giveaway, the link for that is in the description, and subscribe for more like this if you haven't already. I've been Nathan, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.